Let's look at how to create a create page. So this page is going to create new customers. So we'll go File, New, PHP. And we'll save it to begin with. Save as, and we'll call it Create People. And saved. In order to create a new record in our database, we're going to need a HTML form, and that form will contain some text fields that will insert our data to, and we'll also need a button, a submit button. To add a HTML form, there are at least two ways of doing it. First one is to go to Insert, and then go to Form, and then go to Form here. Perhaps an easier way is this panel over here. Insert, and then change it from Common to Form. And then you have all your form elements here. Now you may want to move this around a bit, and you might perhaps the top. That's a good place for it actually, the insert bar along the top here. So you've got your forms here. So whenever you want to insert any objects, you just come to the top here. The form though. So to do that, we just drag it. And we're in our design view. So we just drag it directly onto our design view. We have to be careful of our mouse cursor again, where it's actually placed when we're inserting things. We're going to add some text fields now. I've just clicked in my design view. I'll give it a little bit of space, and I'm going to add a text box. That one there. And automatically it gives us a label, so we can label the text field. So for this people record, we need to look up what our database is holding, or what fields are in our database. So just having a look here, customer ID, but that's a special case, that's auto increment. So we don't actually, when we're creating a customer, we don't actually specify a customer ID. Auto increment here means that the database is going to generate a customer ID for us. But we need first name, last name, address, suburb, postcode, state, phone number, email. Let's go back to the form, and you might want to have a split screen. I'll actually just move this to my second monitor, which you can't see, just to make it a bit easy for me. But you may want a split screen for this part. So our fields are first name, and just being ultra lazy, I'm just going to copy. So we'll need 8 of these. So first name, last name, address. Feel free to skip through the video, this boring bit. Suburb, oops, I can't spell. Suburb, postcode, and state, phone number. So it's a lot easier to edit your form in the design view rather than HTML, I find. And one last one we'll need is email. Our form is not going to look very pretty, but we're just demonstrating the concepts at the moment, and prettiness can come later. Okay, so we've got all our fields. Additionally, I am going to go to the HTML view now, and let's have a look at the HTML view. So you've got your form. It is called Form 1, so we can change the names to be a little more informative, and that's a good practice. But we need to change these names here. Now you can select just in your design view, select it, and down the bottom, down the bottom you've got your names here. So that's one way of changing it. So I'm just going to try and match in these actual names, which aren't actually displayed, I'm going to try and match my database field names as much as possible. So it's going to be called first name. ID, text field, well, we'll want to change that, but it'll do for now. So go ahead and change down the bottom the names of your text fields. You can of course do this in HTML if you find it easier or you just prefer it that way. And I'm just updating those. They do need to be unique because otherwise you'll run into issues using Dreamweaver with your code. Postcode, state, nearly there. State. Phone number. So see how I'm putting in underscores between phone and number? Because our database doesn't like spaces at all. We'll need to use the underscore instead of spaces. Email. Okay, so we've updated all our fields now. The next thing we need to do is add a submit button. So you can go to your insert menu again. I forget where it is. I haven't used this for a long time. Submit button, well there's a button, submit button, there we are. Just your standard submit button. And the final thing, so we've done our form, the final thing to do now is go to server behaviors over here. And we're going to click on the little plus icon again. And this time we're going to insert record. So click on that one. Okay, we get this dialog box now. We need to map the name of our text fields to the names in the database. And because we were careful with our HTML form and when we were setting the names of the text fields, we tried to match what was in the database. This should be relatively easy for us, and Dreamweaver should have done most of the work for us as well. But it's good to double check. So customer ID is unused primary key. That's correct because the customer ID is going to be generated by our database auto increment. First name, that looks correct. Last name, address. We're just having a quick check. Integer, yep. So we don't need to worry about the conversion of postcode as a text string to an integer. Dreamweaver will take care of that for us. State, that looks fine. Phone number. Email does not get a value. Let's have a look at that. We may have forgotten to update the name for email, so let's just click cancel that and check email. Okay, so it looks like there's a problem in updating the name of the email form. Maybe I forgot to click out of it or something like that. Anyway, that check was valuable when we were checking the database mapping to the forms. So let's go back, try again, and we'll put mouse cursor at the end and plus and insert record again. So let's have another check and we'll just quickly check email. So email's getting a value now as well. You're given these options here. You don't need to worry about those in this particular case, but after inserting, go to. Now normally after you insert a record into a database, you go to a listing of all the records in the database. So you add a record and then you go to the list which contains all the records. For now, we're not going to put anything in there because we don't have any other pages. So we'll just leave it as is, but we would be changing that later. So click OK. And let's see whether it works or not. And remember to save again. And remember, we've got to synchronize. So in our site here, we have to go to synchronize with testing server and preview. We've created this new file called create people, and we're going to copy that or synchronize it with the testing server. So click OK. Now we're going to our browser again, and it was localhost/RIS. That will bring up our index.php page, but this one is create people. Now normally I wouldn't type the name of the URL, but we haven't set up any links from our home page to this particular page yet, so I'm just typing it in directly. So there's our form, our very ugly looking form, but let's just test that it works. So I'll just put my name in and could have done the autofill, that would save some time, but probably not the best thing to do actually. You know, have to be careful online, although I've probably given far too much away already. That'll do. 5 Street, yeah, who cares, Miami, State, Queensland, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'll just put my email in. Okay, and submit. Now, see what happens. Alright, so we get a blank screen, but has anything actually happened? Remember that we said after inserting, we left a blank. So after we insert the record, we're not going to go to another page. Normally you would. But on this occasion we haven't. So let's just check our database and see whether we've created a new record. Oops, localhost and phpMyAdmin. And so I'm going to my database, the customer table, and there it is. There's our new record. So there's me, Paul Robotham, 5 Street, Miami, made up postcode. I've actually put in the wrong values for the state. That's alright. We can address those issues later. Phone number, and then there's my email address. So that's how you do a create form.